I think all physicians should see themselves as teachers, and they should be telling whatever they would tell their kids, their family. That's how they should talk to the audience. They should treat their audience as their own family. They should give them the advice that they would give to their family. And I think if you do that, you're going to earn their trust. You're going to give them the right advice. And I think that will serve everybody well.
Welcome back to the Med Creator 101 podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Dustin Portella, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Mimi Banks, the founder of MB Social.
And today's guest is not only known for his clinical expertise, but also pushing boundaries in regenerative skincare and stem cell therapy. We're thrilled to welcome Dr. Nathan Newman, board-certified dermatologist, cosmetic surgeon, and creator of STEM Natural Intelligence. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So before we get started, we love to get to know our guests behind the profile. So do you mind if we ask you some fun, non-social media related questions?
Sure.
So what would be one word that your patients use to describe you?
Maverick.
Maverick. Oh, I love that.
I like that.
If you weren't a dermatologist, what would you be?
Another kind of doctor. I don't know. I'll be physician. That's my identity.
Medicine or bust.
Okay. So did you always know you wanted to be a doctor?
I grew up in a family of doctors, so I love to go to my dad's clinic and see everything.
Ah, got it. What's the wildest skincare trend you've seen that actually works?
The wildest one, probably just basic using lemon on the skin and exfoliating, which was on TikTok a few months ago, and everybody did it and they're is good, except they shouldn't go in the sun with it because it'll get discoloration. But for the exfoliation, if you do it and you wash it off, it's good.
I was a big fan of lemon on the hair growing up.
Yes.
That was my highlights before I got highlights. What's one thing that people would be surprised to know about you?
I don't know. That I'm not always working.
Yeah.
We call that Instagram versus reality.
Absolutely. So for the audience, I've known of Dr. Newman's work since I opened my own practice. I had a patient who was a great advocate for themselves who were battling a unique skin condition, and they came across Dr. Newman's work with stem cells and regenerative medicine. And Dr. Newman was actually kind enough to provide me his phone number. I was able to give him a call and understand the kind of work that he's doing. And nobody can do it like Dr. Newman does, but he gave me some excellent guidance that led to a great treatment plan for this particular patient. So you have been a pioneer in regenerative medicine for a long time, but when did you get started on social media, and what made you want to share the kind of work that you're doing through social media?
I've always wanted to educate. That was sort of part of and parcel of being a physician, is educating our patients, educating our peers, learning from our peers. And social media is basically the next platform of education. Before there was TV and print, but that's evolved into social media. And it's our sort of job to also come up and give real and trustworthy information versus all the trendy things that tend to come on social media, sort of balance everything off.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the saying, you just go to where the conversations are happening. And right now they're happening all over social media. And it's important to be there and be a part of the conversation with voices that are educated and informed to be able to disseminate that to consumers.
Absolutely.
So when it comes to stem cell therapy and regenerative medicine, do you see a big gap in public understanding versus what the reality is on the ground?
Yes, I think that gap is getting better with knowledge in social media, and also the fact that more physicians are starting to look into it, accept part of it, start actually dabbling into it. I think it's becoming part and parcel of what we do as physicians and as healthcare workers. 25 years ago, when I started doing stem cell therapy, nobody knew what it was. It had a bad reputation because people thought it was very unethical, thinking about using embryos, which was very different than what we were doing, using stem cells from the patient's own fat, which is not unethical. This is the most safe and ethical way of doing it. I had to explain that to physicians, what stem cells are. And now we're having a conversation, what kind of stem cells? And as everybody's starting to come around to this idea that this is the next revolution in medicine, this is going to change everything in healthcare.
Yeah, certainly when it comes to the, optimal health, we have all the tools within us. And as we age because of lifestyle habits, diet, lack of exercise, lack of sleep, some of those genes get turned off. But if we have the ability to harvest them, key in on them, wake them up, there's huge potential for regeneration.
Absolutely.
I wondered how you approach stem cell therapy versus the number of new commercial products that are coming out that are purported to be stem cells or exosomes, and wondered if you could educate, a little bit on that, or if that's something that you talk about through your content.
I absolutely think that there's a need for education in terms of what stem cells are and what everything else that comes from stem cells are, because they're not one and the same. Stem cells are the cells that are genetically programmed in our bodies, and they're found in every tissue in our body to repair, regenerate, and renew our tissues. As we age, cells break down, and what replaces them are those stem cells. Those stem cells are alive and well and kicking as long as we're alive and well. So this idea that stem cells are changing and you're aging and they're no good when you get older, that doesn't really ring true in the laboratory or in the clinic. There are different kinds of stem cells, and there's different needs for you to have different amounts of stem cells in your body. Bone marrow stem cells is supposed to make blood. A tissue stem cells from the fat is supposed to make tissues. So their job is different. Their numbers are different. So that is one idea, is how do we use that in the clinic? Because that's something from you to you. What happens is that takes a lot of skill and knowledge. You need to know how to get the stem cells, how to separate it, how to deploy them, inject them, and utilize them. So it's much easier to go to someone and say, hey, I've bottled these cells, go and inject them, right? Now you don't need all that knowledge. The problem is when you grow cells in the laboratory, you're losing all the regenerative cells that are found in the body. You're just sort of growing one type of cell, and then you're getting that one type of cell that's been now frozen, processed, and you don't really know how well those cells will work. And you don't know what cells are going to produce because those cells are responding to their environment. So to take these cells and just inject them, it has its risks. They're not your tissues. So you have to worry about HLA things that are going to happen, maybe not today, down the line. We don't really know. So those are the big risks. Then besides the cells, you have all the exosomes and PRP and things that are not actually stem cells, but they're stem cell derived. And those are the language of cells that we're using to treat things. And that's really the core of my research that I'm doing in the products that I've brought up.
They help bring those signals in to help tell the stem cells what to do. You talked a little bit about battling misinformation online, and I think that there's this concept that when physicians get online, that we're battling misinformation often from consumers who are misinformed. They try something, they concoct something, and they say, you need to do this. This is a hack. But one area that I wanted to see if you wouldn't mind chiming in on is misinformation from other companies. And the question stems from a representative from a company came to my office once, and they were pitching a new product for me to put on patients after a laser treatment. And they talked about how it had stem cells in it and all these things. And I start reading the label and asking questions. And it turns out they were stem cells from an apple. And I had a hard time understanding how an apple stem cell could be beneficial in human tissue. And there's a lot of marketing that goes on from corporations that are trying to potentially claim that things are better than they are. And how do you approach misinformation from potentially corporations?
The best way to fight misinformation as a physician is to get really learned and understand what to ask. Because if you don't know what to ask, whatever they tell you, you're going to accept, right? So they told you plant stem cells. Well, plant stem cells can do a lot of good things, but have they done those studies? Have they shown you how they get those stem cells? Are they reproducing a cell line, or is it just haphazardly grown? Because I just happened to have gone down from the clinic into the lab, and I opened up my lab and did research, and I've done research on human stem cells, on plant stem cells. It's amazing what we can do with the language of stem cells. all the secretomes, all the factors that the cells produce is actually universal. They talk the same language. They have different dialects, but they talk the same language. The difference is, how do we get the cells to produce what we want so that those signals are the right signals when you apply it to the skin or to the body? And that almost nobody looks at.
Yeah.
So you have companies who produce all these cells in the lab, but they have no idea what the language is that is incorporated in their product. That language could be inflammatory instead of anti-inflammatory.
Speaking of language, I think the language will be very important when creating content, specifically on social media. What kind of content do you share or do you see that's been the most effective way to educate about any of this?
So that's a great question. I think the more we can talk in lay terms so that people will understand the basics, because just to say stem cells has become this sort of generic name for all sorts of regenerative stuff. And not all stem cells are the same. Not all products are the same. There are some good products out there, and most of the products that I've been introduced to are actually brought by people who have no idea what they're talking about. And it's a problem because if you ask them if they grew it in the laboratory with human tissue, or do they grow it with animal tissue? Do they grow it with animal protein? Do they grow it with things that can carry diseases that can be transferred to my patients? They wouldn't even know. They don't know. And they'll say, oh, it's in a FDA approved lab. But yeah, but how do they do it? And the fact that we don't know as physicians what goes into making those products is sort of the problem, because we won't know what to ask because we're not in the laboratory. We don't know those things. So what I try to do is to actually tell them that. Try to tell them what the process is. I actually have done pieces taking people into my lab, showing them this is the cell, this is how we grow it, this is what we get out of it. Here is the consortia factors, which are our patented sort of language that we know what that language is going to do in your body because we've studied it on the stem cells, we've studied it on the tissues, we've studied it in the clinic. We know what it says.
So, when you're thinking about social media, are you then talking to other physicians? Are you talking to potential patients? Who do you have in mind when you're taking people into your lab virtually or creating the content?
I'm talking to everyone because this is a new world. Even for physicians, this is a new world. So, in order for someone to understand, you have to understand the basic steps that it starts from and what it takes. How do you grow those cells? Do you need to put it in a serum that's human based or cow based or pig based serum? Or is it free of all those things and you've created something that has not got all those products? Once you know those things as a consumer and as a physician, you now can choose which product is good and safe for yourself and for your patients.
And you can start to ask the right questions if you're a physician. And I think that's a very helpful approach. And I've learned a lot from your content on that as well. When it comes to social media, have you found that it's driven a lot of business in your own practice?
In my practice, it hasn't driven the business in terms of people coming and wanting products, because that's sort of not what I push on my social media. I'm more about education about how they can help themselves, how they can help their health with these treatments. And that has brought a lot of knowledge. And what happens is when people go on to the social media, now they repost or share it with their communities, that brings a lot of information to them. And they reach out to me and say, how can I get improvement or how can I get help doing these things?
Do you find that it drives, not from a product perspective, but from a visit perspective, that people actually come to your practice because of social media? They saw you or they want to learn about your expertise in getting the stem cell facelift?
Yeah, I mean, that is part of it. I think nobody sees something on social media and says, that's what I'm going to do. You see it, you go into the guy's, website, you look at his other contents, you follow him for a while before you come and you look at what other people's testimonials are. I think is part of it, is a very big part of building credibility and making people feel that they know you and they feel comfortable with you and who you are and your approach. Because in social media, unlike a static piece of paper or text, they get to know you, they get to see your personality. And if it resonates with them and they connect with you, they're going to come to you.
That's actually true, Dustin. I would imagine for you too that someone would even maybe they didn't follow you before, but they heard about you. So they would go to social to see your content, to see do they like what you say? Do they connect with you? Do they feel comfortable? And what your ethos is.
Yeah, it's almost like a business card in today's world where you don't necessarily want to go see a physician and then be turned off by the visit. But if you can understand who this person is through their online business card and you jive with them, if you resonate with their message, their approach, then when a patient comes in the door, you know they really want to be there. And I've certainly seen that in my own patient population where when patients have already seen my content, they're excited to come in. There's already a level of trust that's been established, and it's certainly helpful for those kinds of patients.
And then did you take this same kind of mindset about education into heart when you were creating the STEM company's Instagram or social media?
Absolutely. Because the whole idea of STEM is an acronym, is science, technology, education, and mentoring. The whole idea of STEM is to educate people, and natural intelligence is to tell them that the stem cells is the natural intelligence of your body, is tapping into that natural intelligence and letting the body heal itself is a holistic approach. And to do that, it's really a game changer in our approach in medicine and also in skincare. Before, we had stem cell factors, all we had were molecules or acids that we had to use to sort of induce a change in the skin. Here, we're not working at the skin. We're not throwing things at the skin. We're actually working with the skin to get the skin to do what we want it to do in a very sort of organic way. And you can grow younger using your own factors, using these amazing signals that you can put onto your skin. You can visibly see the changes in your skin within a matter of weeks.
One thing we like to find out from physicians is how do you do it all? What does it look like to create content? Do you bulk create content? Do you create content once in a while? What does your schedule look like so you can balance everything?
I wish I could answer that. I've tried to create content in bulk. I've tried to create content on the go. Some people are very good at setting time and doing it. I unfortunately am not. My schedule keeps changing all the time. So I do it as whatever time allows. Sometimes is whatever is allowed during the day, I just do it. Or sometimes I do a bulk series trying to explain a complex idea and breaking it down into different pieces.
That's actually a great takeaway, Dustin, about approach.
Yeah, it's the same for me. I travel schedules and although I do try to set aside time, it's not uncommon, and Mimi can attest to this, that I'm out of the office on this day when I was supposed to be creating content. And if it's something that you enjoy doing, the process, you'll make the time for it when the time allows.
But also for aspiring med creators who are listening, is that you can see Dr. Newman, Dustin have great communities on social, and there's no one right way to organize your time. It doesn't mean that because they bulk create or they create every single day that that's the right way, is that you have to find the way that works for you.
Totally. Dr. Newman, when it comes to creating content, do you have a team that helps you with filming or editing, or are you doing this on your own and editing the videos? What does the back office process look like for that? Because you've got a team in the clinic, you've got a team at the lab. What do you have for social media?
I'm blessed to have very talented people working with me, and they're part of my team to begin with. It's not a social media team. It's part of my team, and they actually do my social media and they help to create the content as we do it. So we film it in the clinic or in the lab, and then they take it and they create the content that needs to be put on.
I have to imagine that helps because they're part of your larger team and they would be more likely to share the mission and the vision because they're there seeing the patients get results in their lives. They're seeing the products do amazing things. They're seeing your dedication and your work ethic in the lab to generate products and procedures that actually work. So that's, I think, probably, a benefit to you versus hiring an agency that doesn't understand medicine potentially. I like that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I've done that and it didn't translate well.
Yeah, it's all a learning experience. And again, no right way to do it, but it sounds like you've got a system and people in place that share that vision, that mission, and it comes across in the work that you do, on social media and in the clinic and in the lab, I'm sure.
One thing that we found is that the way in which people come up with content ideas varies from person to person. Do you have a system that you keep a notepad in your office, or your assistants help come up with ideas? How do you come up with the content ideas for your community?
So a lot of the content that we come up with is just trying to explain to them what we do, because in my clinic, I don't just do dermatology, I do everything related to stem cells. So that's a huge array of treatments, including joints and autoimmune disease and wound healing and burns, and then all the skincare products that we've created that are really a new category in the whole skincare world. Is talking about regenerative skincare. It's talking about all these different concepts. So we have all these things that we want to talk about, and then you have the trends that go on, doing some TikTok on some product that came out of somewhere, and everybody's asking, "What is that?" And then you have to go and explain why that's just a trend and is not really something that's going to last and endure on a scientific basis. That trend is not going to help them long term.
So for you, content is more, it's like, as we were talking about earlier, dispelling myths, but really more about education. And do you see that there's one unique question that you find that people ask over and over again that you focus on? Or is it the wide kind of range of understanding what stem cells are, the benefits, and what your practice is?
I think if most people are wanting to understand how they can benefit from it. They can benefit from the technology. And what's the difference between this thing and that thing? This thing they just heard about is, oh, muse cells are the best. Or the other one says, oh, no, exosomes are the best. And the other one says, no, you got to do this kind of stem cells. And you just got to keep coming back and telling them what all these things are. And the biggest challenge is, to Dustin's point, is somebody says something, now it's very hard to dispel somebody's ideas once it's out there and re-educate somebody. The biggest challenge is actually trying to get somebody to understand why the things that are tried and true in terms of the stem cells is there, and there's a lot of science behind it. Most people think stem cells is just this new thing that's come out, and it's been around for 25 years. We have so much data. There's more publications about stem cell therapy and about stem cell derived products that I can even keep up with. It's exponential how much data is out there. And there's nothing as powerful as that in terms of knowledge to be conveyed to the patients. To say that this is not something just happened yesterday and we're just doing it. This is years and years of science that you can sort of rely on to help yourself, to treat yourself. And if you don't have that knowledge, then maybe you should go to somebody who has that knowledge to gain that knowledge.
And I think also the learning here, Dustin, I'm taking your role. Usually you're the breakdown, but is that nothing is really, when it comes to medicine, at least what I'm understanding, is like there's a lot of complexity, but there's the ability to simplify it and to put it into layman's terms for everybody, not just for patients, but for physicians alike. And physicians can benefit from it. And specifically when it comes to social, since people really are getting their information from social media.
The other message that I'm getting from you is it's okay to talk about the same topic multiple times. I've talked to other physicians who want to be on social media or have a small following and say, well, you should do a video on this. And they'll say, I did a video on that a few months ago. But when you post a video, only a small percentage of your followers will see it, maybe some new people, and you absolutely can revisit topics. And we know that sometimes you have to hear things 7, 10 times before the message finally comes home. And so it's completely fine to repackage the same idea in a new format or say it slightly differently, but you're still sharing the same valuable information. And that's something that I think all physicians who are on social media should be doing is you can revisit those same topics over and over. Dr. Newman, I want to ask how you analyze your social media. If you look at analytics or performance, to guide you on creating future social media videos?
We've looked at engagement and sort of what resonates with our audience. And in my social media exposure is that every time I bring ideas and educate, that sort of resonates with the people that are following me. And every time I'm posting something that is less of me doing it, it doesn't come across as well. So if I just post something that I write and I post it, it doesn't resonate as much as if I were to turn on the camera and say, this is what it is, and just read it out loud to them. It just resonates more.
Yeah, that's good feedback. And it's important to kind of look and see what performs. We all do that in our clinical practice. If we find something's working, we do more of it. If we're like, that procedure didn't go the way I want, I'm going to tweak it. I'm going to make a change. And we take that same discipline to social media. If we really want to be a creator and an educator, we have to be able to learn from our performance, essentially.
Some people are more serious, like I'm more of an educational kind of guy. And some people are more fun, they just show their day and make more light-hearted thing that still is good for the patients because they see the personality, they see the person. It may resonate with them. You have to do what works for you. There's no right and wrong.
Dr. Newman, you're certainly an inspiring physician with your clinical work, your laboratory work, and through social media. And I think you and I share the same idea that we want more physicians sharing accurate information on social media. And I wondered if you might have a message or advice to physicians who are considering stepping into the social media sphere. Any words of encouragement or advice you would give them on getting started on that process?
I think all physicians should see themselves as teachers, and they should be telling whatever they would tell their kids, their family. That's how they should talk to the audience. They should treat their audience as their own family. They should give them the advice that they would give to their family. And I think if you do that, you're going to earn their trust. You're going to give them the right advice. And I think that will serve everybody well.
That really speaks to authenticity and not creating a new character, not trying to be somebody different.
Absolutely.
Well, I really appreciate your time being here with Mimi and I today to talk about the incredible innovations that you have to offer in your practice and the education that you offer through social media. If somebody is interested in finding you in your practice or following you on social media, where's the best place for them to go?
They can follow me on our Instagram at Dr. Nathan Newman, or they can reach out to us through our website at nathannewmanmd.com.
And we will have links to those in the podcast show notes. Genuinely appreciate your time being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the MedCreator 101 podcast. We hope you've enjoyed this discussion with Dr. Nathan Newman, a leading pioneer in the field of stem cell and regenerative medicine. If you found this episode helpful, we'd love it if you left us a 5-star review on any podcast player that you're listening on and share the episode with a friend. As always, we encourage you to take the leap, get into social media, and we'll see you on the next episode.